This next concept is one of my absolute favorite, and I really want you to take it to heart for yourself as an individual, but also as a collective group. This is first and foremost a model of looking at your mindset. We all have times where we go into this place in our mind that says, I have no choice. And what we mean when we feel and think that way is that there's something dictating my choices that is not my own authority. It's some authority figure. It could be our actual boss or IRS or a police officer, or it could be an authority figure we've internalized from our past. Our parents or the sister Mary Josephine in grade school. But what happens is when we hold that belief, one attitude we could take is that we'll resentfully comply. And when we're doing that, it is a reaction. It's not a response. It's a reaction to what we perceive as being dominated by the authority figure. When we do that, we're in a blind spot. This is super important. We don't feel responsible for what is in front of us. We don't feel responsible for our tasks, our relationships, or our outcomes. Our behavior is very Eeyore-ish. We come across like a victim. And that shows up in tone of voice, body language. If you're asking somebody to do something and they're in this mindset, you'll hear it in, okay, I'll do it. But you can feel that it's only going to be done at about a C- grade. This is where quiet quitting resides. And it's not even something a person is aware that they are a choice around, that it is their internal mindset that is the author of it. The other attitude we can take, which is also a reaction, is to rebel and resist. And again, we don't feel responsible for relationships, for tasks, for outcomes. We're actually coming from kind of a mean-spirited, no, I won't, you can't make me. Here's a very simple example. I was dating a man one time. We were both younger. He had fairly young children. He was a divorcee. And I asked him, I said, just out of curiosity, why don't you wear your safety belt? And he said, I'm not letting the government control me. Now, I want you to think about that for a minute. That's a person that's not free. That's a person that's stuck in some mindset that they have to rebel against the government over a seatbelt rule. And to me, it was very unattractive because he was putting at risk his relationship with his kids, even his relationship with me, because it's not a responsible reaction. It's a responsible behavior. It's a reactive behavior. And he wasn't even considering what the outcomes could be. And this is how it is when we're on that side of the model. So it's really important that you recognize that. And this is in the handout that I'm providing you, along with some of the other things that I've already covered. But it asks you some questions to really help you recognize when you are in this mindset and when other people around you are in this mindset, because this is the root of whether we're in healthy belonging and significance or whether we're in disengagement and struggle. So what does it look like to not be in what's called other-directed? If we're not other-directed, we're in self-directed. And the difference is that when we're self-directed, we remember that we're autonomous. We remember that even when we choose to go to work, it's not a have to. The reality is we could just not go to work and choose to be homeless. Like, it is a free choice. When we remember that, we do this thing called self-reflection. What am I feeling and what do I want? Sometimes the answers are very simple and sometimes they're more layered. Maybe our first thing we're feeling is a really strong reaction and we don't necessarily want to make a decision from it. So we have to sit with, what am I feeling now? What do I want now? Okay, and the reason we can do that and say yes or no, or maybe negotiate something, is because when we're in this mindset, we're considering all the positive and negative consequences of every decision. So we're not in reaction, we're in a place where we're able to respond. And from that, the behavior comes across. We feel the responsibility of our decisions. We feel the responsibility for our tasks, our outcomes, our relationships, and our behavior shows up as accountable. Now, I want to show something to you. When we say yes from self-directed, it's got a totally different energy and outcome And the relationships are different when we say yes from a willingness and yes from resentful compliance. The resentful compliance is about a C- and comes with a lot of grudging. The agreement from self-directed is an A+ accountable yes. The same is true of a no. When we say no from self-directed, we're being led by our highest self, our biggest self, not our small self. And so even our no is going to be negotiated or discussed or accommodated in a way that is respectful to the outcomes, the tasks, and the relationships. It has a whole different quality of energy to it. So it's not how things look on the surface. That's why I want you to know getting people to comply is not the same as getting people to commit. And it's the same for yourself. I had a guy one time who saw the other directed side, and he said, oh my God, I've lived my whole life over there. I've either felt like a victim or I've been angry all the time. How do I get over there? So it's really important that you even have recognition of when you're in one worldview, one mindset, and one set of behaviors, and when you're not. When we're accountable, it's an inside job. It's when our beliefs, our attitudes, our response, our feelings, and our behavior all line up. We say what we mean and we mean what we say. And that's why I kind of bristle when I hear people say, let's hold each other accountable. You can't really do that. You can create conditions and conversations where people are more likely to be aware of when they're in other directed or self-directed. But the responsibility is to hold yourself accountable so that you're a role model for helping other people see when they are choosing accountability. But there's no you holding anyone accountable. It's really you saying, I'm going to make the commitment to hold myself accountable and to raise questions like, hey, is there a barrier that's making you feel resentful compliance? Is there a barrier that has you rebelling against this that you possibly could work through? And those are the kinds of things that help people move from other directed to self-directed.